So I just wanted to touch base. I did hear from a few of you about whether or not you were wanting to do group or individual. There are still several that I haven't heard from yet. So if at some point during today's session, well, like early on while we're still talking about some other stuff, if you can just send me a chat saying if you want to be in a group and if you already have your group and who's in that group if you do, or if you want to be randomly assigned, or if you want to do an individual project, just send that to me in the chat and then I will get those groups set up. If we have time today, I would love to break you into those little groups so that you can kind of start touching base on some of the logistics. And then we'll also talk about if you're going to need a Zoom link, if you need to be able to meet that way, or if you've got everything under control. And if we decide one thing during class today and it ends up that it changes, just let me know. We can always work around that stuff too. Does anybody have any questions about that project? And obviously, as things go, you can always ask questions as things come up. And everybody's putting their stuff in here, so I'm just getting these all marked down here real quick. Oh, goodness. Several of you have very good thoughts as far as the logistics of working as a group. When you are roommates, that definitely makes it so much easier because you're already right there with each other. So that's really nice. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the cultural biasy paper that's due this weekend? This is just a reflection. So again, it's kind of like that first one we did based off the cultural autobiographies. It's just more of a bias type paper. Is there any questions on that particular one?
I was wondering if you wanted this paper in APA as well.
Not the reflection paper does not need to be an APA.
Okay, thank you.
I have discovered that writing in APA format is difficult when it's a reflection. Just because I'm really wanting to hear your thoughts and give you guys the opportunity to kind of look more into yourself and become more aware of what those biases might be going forward. Okay. So I'm just getting all of these written down real quick. I appreciate you all letting me know. Making sure I've got everybody. Okay. Got most of you. There's a couple that looks like I don't have, but that's okay. So I know in our modules, we really didn't have anything else put in there today except for to work more on these stories of schooling. I wanted to open it up to the fact that next week it's in there for us to start talking a little bit more about cultural and linguistic diversity. I did find another court case concerning more, everything that we've kind of looked at before has been more about race. And I did find one court case that I thought was kind of interesting, based more on school districts refusing to provide English as a second language to their non-English speaking students, even though they had integrated them into their schools. So I did want to go ahead and share that with you guys today, just so that we can kind of start moving towards that. There will be a couple classes that we won't meet or meet via Zoom like this. We will I'll give you that time to work on your projects. So I do want to kind of maybe focus on maybe getting just a little bit ahead in some of the material, and then be able to not feel like we're cutting short on something else. So let me go ahead and pull up that quick little video. This one will work. I figure that the ones that we were trying to watch last week, we weren't able to watch because it's based on a copyright thing where it just wouldn't show the screen through the share, which as an educator, we shouldn't have to worry too much about copyright, but I don't quite know how to work around that yet. So things that are just easy access, you don't have to have a subscription to something, or you don't have to pay for them, we can easily watch. Other ones, evidently that's a issue to try to figure out how to work through. But this particular one is on YouTube, so we're all good. Oh, okay, let me get this back to the beginning. Can everybody hear it or no? Nope. Okay. Let me go back in and do that reshare. Sometimes I forget to share computer sound, so that does cause some problems sometimes. Okay, so I'm hoping everyone is able to see the screen.
Court decision that guaranteed all children, regardless of their language and background, the right to a meaningful education. The San Francisco Unified School District was integrated due to a decree made by the federal court. Non-English speaking Chinese students were integrated into classrooms with English speakers in which they were being taught in a language they did not understand. Soon thereafter, the district court found that there were approximately 2,800 Chinese ancestry students in the school system who did not speak English. 1,800 of those students did not receive any supplemental English instruction. Non-English speaking Chinese students, their families, and teachers believed that the school district was failing to provide students with instruction when they needed it. The San Francisco Unified School District was integrated due to a decree made by the federal court. Non-English speaking Chinese students were integrated into classrooms with English speakers in which they were being taught in a language they did not understand. Soon thereafter, the district court found that there were approximately For years, protests by language minority communities sought better education for their children. Federal officials finally began to feel the pressure and directed school districts to respond to limited English proficiency students' needs. However, due to the California Education Code stating that English shall be the basic language of instruction in all schools, districts took it upon themselves to determine if and when they would provide said bilingual instruction. Therefore, the argument was that they were not in violation of any codes or amendments by only providing a certain number of students with bilingual instruction. Immediately, the United States District Court of Northern California filed in favor of the San Francisco Unified School District, refusing to order the San Francisco Unified School District to accommodate the educational needs of their students. Lower courts had absolved the San Francisco School District of any responsibility for minority children's lack of English. Mr. Thomas M. O'Connor argued for Nichols, the president of the Board of Education, and the San Francisco Unified School District, stating that they did not see it as the school district's responsibility to provide these students with English language instruction because every student comes to school with different advantages and disadvantages, created apart from any contributions by the school system. Mr. O'Connor also argued that the San Francisco Unified School District had attempted to reach all students, but simply did not have the resources to do so. A lack of budget, as well as teachers, was the biggest issue. Justice Douglas, author of the unanimous Supreme Court opinion in favor of Lau, quoted Senator Hubert Humphrey, stating, "Simple justice requires that all public funds, to which all taxpayers of all races contribute, not be spent in any fashion which encourages, entrenches, subsidizes, or results in racial discrimination." Therefore meaning that the children of the San Francisco Unified School District shall no longer be blamed for what had previously been seen as a language deficiency. In 1973, a petition was filed because of the public importance of the case at hand, and was granted on June 11th. On the 21st of January, 1974, the Supreme Court reversed the previous rulings. The court noted there is no equality of treatment merely by providing students with the same facilities, textbooks, teachers, and curriculum. For students who do not understand English are effectively foreclosed from any meaningful education. Basic English skills are at the very core of what these public schools teach. Imposition of a requirement that, before a child can effectively participate in the educational program, he must already have acquired those basic skills is to make a mockery of public education. We know that those who do not understand English are certain to find their classroom experiences wholly incomprehensible and in no way meaningful. ELLs need English language instruction that they can acquire while still progressing academically. Those who were for the decision stated that the 14th Amendment was being violated. The San Francisco Unified School District also received funds from federal financial assistance, and because of those funds was required to make sure all students were given the opportunity to obtain an education. The guidelines became more specific, stating that school districts which received funds had to rectify the language deficiency in order to continue to run. It was stated that those arguing for Lau did not believe that the district and its respondents intentionally contributed to the inadequacy, but that they only failed to respond to changing social and linguistic patterns.
As a result of the Lau v. Nichols ruling, the Lau remedies were created. They led to the expansion of Title VI enforcement under the Ford and Carter administrations. The Lau remedies were developed to provide Office of Civil Rights guidelines for compliance. They specified procedures for identifying language minority students and assessing their English language proficiency, determining appropriate instructional treatments, deciding when students were ready for mainstream or grade level classes, and determining the professional standards expected of teachers of language minority students. The Lau remedies strongly encourage school districts to implement bilingual education wherever feasible. For example, in each school district that had at least 20 students of limited English proficiency who spoke the same primary language. Schools were required to provide ESL services along with academic content taught through the student's strongest language until students reach sufficient proficiency in English to experience success in monolingual English classes. These guidelines redefine bilingual education to include bilingual and bicultural program models that go beyond transitional programs to provide ongoing bilingual and bicultural instruction after students are proficient in English. The Lau remedies represented a new level of federal requirements where none had previously existed. School districts were now required to demonstrate that they had some kind of effective educational program for students of limited English proficiency. If a school district were found to be out of compliance, it would be threatened with loss of federal funds. The Lau remedies were never published in the Federal Register, and after a court decision questioned their enforceability, a new set of Lau regulations were proposed in August of 1980. These regulations specified identification and assessment procedures and proposed alternative methods of instructions for limited English proficiency students, such as transitional, maintenance, or two-way models of bilingual education and ESL for low-incidence language groups. The Lau regulations were withdrawn as a result of the presidential election. They were criticized for being too specific, whereas the Lau remedies were criticized for being too vague. After the Lau ruling, with the help of Chinese for Affirmative Action and the Association of Chinese Teachers, teachers were trained in bilingual education, and programs began in schools across San Francisco. It has been reported that for a language minority student, it takes 7 years for him or her to feel proficient in the English language. The Lau ruling influenced the 3 goals of English language learner programs. They are to improve students' English language proficiency, to provide core curriculum in the students' primary languages, and to maintain students' cultural identity. These goals validate and reinforce the importance of maintaining the students' primary language and culture by allowing them to continue learning in both their primary language as well as increasing their proficiency within the English language. For language minority students, these goals also help increase student self-concept and self-confidence, which for many language minority students can be low prior to increasing their English language proficiency. The implementation of ELL and bilingual education programs across the country means that for language minority students, their education can continue despite English language barriers. Today, ELL programs across the country allow students to successfully be multilingual and multicultural.
So as we all know, depending on where we're at, we could end up with a whole group of students in our classroom that maybe English isn't their primary language, or maybe the language spoken at home is not the same as what's spoken at school. Oh, I apologize. Evidently, I need to learn to close out those windows before they start going again. I apologize. I'm curious as to what some of your thoughts are on how you would handle non-English speaking students in your classroom.
Well, I'm kind of curious. I know that there's like technology that can translate, um,
Mhm.
like while you speak. I don't know. Is that something that's starting to be seen in classrooms, or is that still kind of future sci-fi stuff?
You know, that one, I'm not even sure if I can answer that one, Garrett. I do know a lot of people do have like the different apps on their phones. I used to work in a hospital emergency room for a while, and patients would come in, and you're trying to like verify their demographics. And so we would go back and forth through this app on their phone to kind of help with that. Um, I feel like that if we're not using that in the schools or like the technology to help with translation, I almost feel like we're doing a disservice, because I know like in some of your special ed programs, they do have like the tablets where the child can push on the different things to make sound or do the noise that they need or say the word that they're looking for when maybe they can't say it themselves. So I feel like for your non-English speaking students, that should be a thing. Um, One study that I was reading, I want to say like a couple weeks ago, talked about a student that she got pulled out of her classroom um, a lot to go and work with an ESL teacher to help work on some of that English language learning. And more of it was because sometimes there's just a little bit difference in how you say something and what that word means. We've all kind of been privy to see like anybody that's maybe a foreign exchange student or someone who's not truly from America, and they've come and they've learned English, but yet they'll use it in really random ways where they'll use a different word than what they really mean. Um, so being able to work on a lot of those kinds of things, they'd go just to another classroom to do those things. But I do feel like, having some technology that can translate almost might be more helpful for students to have that more inclusion based. Has anybody had experience having like classmates that were non-English speaking?
My school had a very large population of English language learners because I'm from California, so we have a lot of people who have immigrated, and we had speech classes, and I feel like they threw every single one of us in speech um, for either English language learners or just for any other learning the language. Like I was really shy and they put me in speech. So I almost wonder whether it was some sort of funding, like the more kids they had in speech, the more money they got or something, because they put every single one of us in there. But my school district had one school that was a dual immersion program, and they had kids who were English language learners, and then they had kids who spoke English as their first language, and they learned Spanish all the way up through high school, and then they went into the AP classes and stuff. So they were completely fluent, and then all of our ELLs were, we called them English certified, and they got like a award recognized by the state once they like were fluent in English.
Well, that's quite a bit. There's a lot to be said about the extra funding. I mean, if you think about those schools that have a high special ed population and low socioeconomic status, they do get a lot of additional funding in a lot of areas. I shouldn't say in all areas, but in a lot of areas, they will do that. Um, and Michaela brings up that other point of those dual immersion programs. Those are starting to pop up in a lot of places. I know here in Casper, I think we have 2 schools that have dual immersion. One, I believe the focus is, I know one of them, Mandarin Chinese is the focus. And I'm trying to, I don't know if, I think Spanish might be the other one. But those are some pretty intense programs where they really are being immersed into that language, and they, speak only that language when they're in those classes, which can be really, I don't know, to me that would be really intense because I'd feel like a fish out of water. I don't know about the rest of you, but I definitely would feel like a fish out of water. Any other experiences with English language learners?
So I'm actually from California too, and I basically was considered an ESL too. Um, well, I was born here, but since my family or my parents mainly spoke Spanish, I was um put in bilingual education, but that was when I was little until second grade, I believe.
Mhm.
And most of what I can remember is that like most of my classes were taught in Spanish, and then I would be pulled from a classroom, and they would teach me like a little bit of English. Um, and then when I was in second grade, my family moved to a different city that didn't like have um bilingual education, so I was automatically put in a English only classroom, and that was very, very hard for me to adjust to. um I think I don't know if like the only reason why they put me in like one of my teachers classroom was because of her last name, but she did not know any Spanish, so it was really, really hard to communicate with her. So I ended up like repeating a grade level because of that. And so I have no idea how like I was able to like catch up with everyone else, because I don't know, I guess I just like blocked it out of my mind or something. But yeah, that was really hard for me.
Well, and in that video, they'd even said that it can take 7 years for somebody to actually feel like comfortable with that language, and then that's a long time. Um, so it's definitely interesting to me, and knowing that a lot of families speaks one language at home, but the kids maybe speak the majority language. So there'll be a lot of kids, even Wyoming, kids come to school, they speak English, but at home, Spanish is what's being spoken. So it's got to be kind of difficult for them. And then they become kind of that interpreter for their parents, which can be, there's some boundaries that probably get crossed there because there are things that the kids shouldn't necessarily be privy to, but then they end up having to be because they got to play that role because nobody else can communicate with their parents. So kind of being aware of those things. And if you notice like a student that's struggling, looking at language might be where part of it is. Um, and then that assumption, like Maria was talking about, the assumption that because somebody has a last name that's looks like it might belong to a certain group, assuming that they speak that language, that's not always accurate. And I think we can all attest to the fact that, like, especially with Spanish, there are so many different dialects that the way somebody from like Colombia may speak Spanish is going to be totally different than the way somebody from Spain speaks Spanish. So having those things in mind as well, that there's going to be a little bit of confusion in those areas as well. Any other experience with English language learning? I kind of just wanted to, I guess kind of introduce that subject just so that we can kind of be aware that that's something that we're going to spend a little bit of time on, probably not a significant amount, but at least a little bit. I do want to go ahead and put you into groups in breakout rooms. These will be your groups for the stories of schooling. Mostly what I want you to do is just, like, for those that maybe don't know each other real well, just kind of start to get to know each other, talk about how you're going to want to come together, if it's in person or if it needs to be a Zoom thing, if you're going to need a Zoom link created or if you're able to get that set up on your own, and just some of those logistic things. And then if you have any questions coming out of that, we can also address those as well. And I know the first time I tried to do breakout rooms, it didn't really work very well, but I think I have it figured out now. So let me see here. And then those of you that have chosen to do individual projects, you're just going to get to stay in this main room with me. So much to your dismay. Or you can probably take like a few minute break or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Get these assigned. Okay. So now I apologize. This will probably take me just a couple minutes just because it's a new thing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and send you to your rooms, and then in about maybe 10-15 minutes, I'll bring you all back. Okay, so then the rest of you, well, we got one more that's still going to her room. Okay, and if any of the rest of you, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. If not, go ahead and just take a couple minute break and come back. So I jumped into your guys' breakout room just to let you know that I have the other Kyle assigned here as well, but he's not here today. I'll send him an email as well, and then you guys can get together and figure out how you're going to work that out. Working with him might be difficult just because he's got this really weird work schedule now. So I wish you all the luck.
Okay. Thank you.
It might just be difficult in coordinating some of that, but I think
Sure.
you'll all be able to figure out how to put it all together and make the best of the
Yep.
situation. Do you guys have any questions?
I don't yet. I don't think.
Okay. Well, if you guys do, just let me know and I will let y'all go back to whatever you guys need to talk about for a few minutes.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So I was wondering if I could run like a couple topics by you.
Yeah, go right
guess.
ahead.
So I haven't like gone in depth. These are just ideas.
Uh-huh.
So I was thinking about like the whole like women's equality in school, but also like disabled students. Would that be
Yeah,
okay?
that would definitely be something to definitely look at.
Okay. And another one would be like LGBT students too.
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. I was just trying to like think of different ideas, I guess.
Yeah, no, those are all definitely really good ones.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it had to be just like racial and ethnicity or if it could.
Yeah, no, it can be any group. In fact, I was looking at some different like underrepresented groups and like the LGBT groups and what was there? There was LGBTQ, or even like even religious groups sometimes can even be one. And honestly, even, I mean, we always talk about women, but you could also even look at like areas where men are underrepresented.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another one was in like the area of STEM. You know, they said they want to get like more women and more minorities into STEM, but honestly, it should be for like everyone. We want to encourage everyone to kind of get involved in some of those areas. So it's definitely kind of interesting of what could be considered underrepresented. Give everybody just a few more minutes to kind of wrap some things up and we'll call everyone back and answer any other questions that may have come up. I'm gonna go ahead and check in with a couple of the groups and then see if we can't come back. How's everything in this group going?
Good.
You have everything kind of figured out? Have any major questions?
I do have one question. Do we need to like approve our group, like anything or ideas with you? Or like, are you okay with if like if there's duplicates, like if another group accidentally picks the same thing?
Yeah, no, that's fine because the chances of the presentations being the exact same are pretty slim, and to be able to have different perspectives, I always think that that's always very beneficial. And you never know. And I'm not worried about what kind of group you pick because it could be very unique and maybe not something that everybody thinks of too. So nope, you've got total freedom as long as, I guess, as long as you're meeting the requirements that they have for the paper, because this is one of those common assessments across the entire course, not just our sections. So as long as we're meeting those requirements, I'm pretty open.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to check in with a couple other breakout rooms and then I will bring you all back.
All right.
How are things in this particular group?
So far, good.
Okay,
Good.
well, do you guys have any questions or anything, or you okay?
I think we're good.
All righty,
Yeah.
I'm gonna check in with a couple other groups real quick and then we'll get back to the main group.
Okay.
I can try to find some stuff on the historical context.
How is this group doing? Are we okay?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, perfect. I'm just going to check in with a couple more and then we'll come back and answer any major questions that anybody might have.
So who wants to do cultural?
It actually helps a lot when you have a pretty good mentor when you first start.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, one of your group members is not in here.
Yeah, she got kicked out, but I'm keeping her updated on everything.
Okay. Okay. Breakout rooms are great, but sometimes they don't work well. We'll get them all kind of figured out at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to check in with you all and then I'll probably call you back to the main room here in just the next minute or so.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Perfect.
Cool. No, but like I think going back to the main session.
Okay, as everybody comes back. I know we had a few little glitches with that, but hopefully everybody was kind of able to at least touch base a little bit. I will also send out or post a document in announcements just with all the groups and the group members' names, just so everybody has that. And I did want to just check and see if there were any questions that haven't been answered yet. Okay, so for the few that just got back into the room, were there any questions that you had that needed to be answered still, or is everything clear as mud? Any comments, anything like that? Okay. Like I did say, you know, there will be a couple classes that we won't meet for class. You'll just be able to utilize that time to work either on this project or work on something else so that you can work on this project at a convenient time for everyone. I know one of the biggest challenges in working as a group is having time to get together, and with the way things are, getting together is a little bit more difficult. So if you are going to meet together in person, please do so extremely safely. You know, we don't want to have an outbreak in our classroom. That probably would not fare too well for any of us. Um, if you need help as far as if you're doing group meetings and stuff via Zoom and you're having trouble with getting a Zoom meeting set up, please let me know. I can always set you up a link that you can get in if your accounts don't allow you to or something. Just let me know and I will help you with that. And we will, we'll meet on Thursday and we'll talk a little bit more about kind of more that inclusion with English language learners and maybe touch on disabilities as well. And then next week we won't have class so that you guys can all focus on working on your projects. And then we can kind of go from there as far as what we do after that. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, comments, anything like that? You all doing okay? I know it's like mid-semester and it seems like things get a little bit crazy at mid-semester. Like everybody has assignments due. All right, don't forget about your reflection paper on racial biases for this weekend. I'm working on getting those papers graded for the purposes of education. Those ones are just taking a little longer. They're a little bit longer paper. And when you add APA in there, it just makes it a little bit more time consuming. So hopefully I will get those done and back to you as soon as possible. And yeah, if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And I just want to give you the opportunity to take some time either for yourself or to start working on any other assignments you have, or maybe the assignments you have for this class. So go ahead and have a great rest of your day, and we will see you on Thursday.